Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today I'll talk about how you can level any character on any class to maps with the same gear setup. See, I have this sickness called rerollitis. I see a cool build, I want to try it out, but Path of Exile 2 is pretty stingy with that because the campaign takes so goddamn long, for example, in comparison to Path of Exile 1. And sure, that is because some of the layouts are quite convoluted, but I will tell you that you can actually make this whole process a lot easier. Now, the reason I'm making this video right now is because I had to level a warrior, and if you didn't know already, not all classes are made equal when it comes to leveling. Having leveled every class at this point, I can tell you that the pain levels between Ranger and Warrior are insane. It's like playing a different game. However, what you see in the background is playing every class that you want as a monk. You can level it, then you can later respec into whatever build you want. This is very helpful because some builds don't really pop off until level 50, level 60, until you get to maps, or you can equip your items that you prepared beforehand that have a certain level requirement. And with the help of Pillar of the Cage God, we can basically make it so on any passive tree, you can spec about the same. I'm going to talk about small differences and have exactly the same gear setup, and I mean exactly, and do well. Now in this video, I'll explain everything. I'll explain gear choices, passive tree, skill choices, and everything in between. Do you want to invest 20x because you only want to reroll once and you want to be a few hours faster, or are you somebody who's going to play for a month or longer and you want to reroll multiple characters and you're willing to invest even more? And the reason I say this is, and you have to understand this, when leveling, gear is absolutely everything. It is the difference between you one-shotting stuff or standing there for 20 seconds. But before we get into the gear, just a quickie word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is an online learning platform that teaches you backend development. Their selling proposition is learning stuff in more of a gamified version to make the process more enjoyable. This means you're more engaged with the topic and stop getting bored easily. They'll teach you backend development from start to finish in the Python and Go programming languages. Programmers have amazing earning potential. In fact, the median salary for backend development in the US in 2023 was over $100,000. The platform is designed to get you to your keyboard and start coding. These kind of projects are the only way to actually learn and get experience in the field. You can earn XP, levels, achievements, and complete quests, while also possibly getting a spot on the leaderboards. There's also a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy and tons of free demos you can check out on the website before you even spend your first dollar. So if you're interested, use code Palsteron for 25% off your first purchase. That is either your first month or a year, whatever you prefer. Link will be down below in the description. All right, let's start out with gear. Pillar of the Cage God is the reason this setup works. This staff gives you increased AoE, attack speed, and weapon damage depending on which attribute you have more of, or which attribute you scale. And we're going to scale mostly all of them, but there's a few more things to it. So the way you have to think about the staff, first up, it has no level requirement. Second up, it has like no flat damage whatsoever. Like it's terrible. It has, as you can see up top, physical damage without runes or corruption has like absolutely nothing. So you can see down there, 10% increased weapon damage per 5 strength. That is incredible. Very strong. It multiplies all your flat damage, but if you don't have flat damage, there's nothing to multiply. So what you have to do is you have to get flat damage from external sources, or like you can see right here, from runes. For example, right here, I have the Glacial rune, 6 to 10 cold damage. Cold damage in general is better than the others because of Freeze and Herald of Ice. More on that a little bit later. But you put 2 of those sockets in. Now, if you want to invest more, I would highly recommend to get any corruption. I personally got the fire one because it was the cheapest. The cold one would be the most premium. Lightning is obviously very good as well. The reason this leveling setup works so well in Path of Exile 2 is because you can choose whatever attribute you want, right? So you can be a sorcerer and you can level with the setup because you can just take strength from the get-go. Because strength is really the winner here. You want to take a little bit of dexterity and int, don't get me wrong, but strength, 10% increased weapon damage is very strong. But, and I will hammer this in over and over, this is very important. It provides increased damage and attack speed, but it has no base or flat damage or whatever you want to call it. So that means you can have as much percentage increased. If you have nothing to multiply off of, it's completely worthless. So you need to do that with gear. Now, you should start off just one-shotting everything, basically everything, because you're going to get so much flat damage from runes. If you get a corruption, which I highly recommend, you're going to get even more damage until level 15 or so. It doesn't really matter. But, I mean, the faster, the better. But you can get flat damage from sources. First up, North Paw. It's literally just 4 to 7 physical damage. It doesn't sound like much, but in the grand scheme of things, it's around about 20% more damage. At level 6, we're going to replace these, but they're nice to have. Rings like this, I literally gambled this one and just regaled, and you get, I don't know, an iron ring with 1 flat damage. If you get more, that's GG. I didn't really try. I didn't want to exalt. make sure that it has no level requirement. And then you also have Blackheart. Blackheart gives you flat chaos damage and flat physical damage, but on top of that, it also gives Intimidate, 10% increased damage taken, 10% reduced damage dealt. Very strong leveling item. So you kind of get the gist, and we're going to go further and further into this flat damage scaling the further we go. Another helmet that is incredible is Greymake. This one gives you up to 50 of any attribute, but you lose 1 all attribute per level. So you start out absurdly strong, and it kind of trickles down up to like level 30, where we're going to replace the helmet. So yeah, at the start, the power boost is ridiculous. One theme before we go further, you will see as well, is I use my runes because 5 all res is kind of cozy. Not dying is kind of cool. You can put in whatever you want, but you will see investing a little bit into LE res will, I don't know, just make it more comfortable. After leveling, I will say if you have really good gear, it doesn't really matter because you're not going to get hit. But I personally really don't like dying. So yeah, and we don't take that much defensive stuff. Super important here, Fox Shade, the best leveling item ever. It's like you can get up to 12% movement speed with this corruption. So baseline, this is 10% movement speed when on full life, which is basically always. And you can corrupt this to up to 12. I only have 11 because I'm poor, but if you can get a 12 one, or if you can corrupt it yourself, that is ridiculous. So very strong. And you will see this in general. If you didn't know, with corruptions, you can increase, I think it's 22% more of a certain value of a stat. So for example, movement speed goes from 10 to 12 if you get super lucky. Same is true for the boots here. We have Luminous Pace, which usually have 10% movement speed. I corrupted them to 12%. If you can get this nice, this is all min-maxing, as you will see, but yeah, it's just so you get the gist of it. North Paw, just a little bit of flat damage, as I said. This amulet here is pretty special. Now, Sure-Footed Sigil. I'll quickly put this off, just so we have kind of like a comparison to where we would be early in terms of movement speed. I want to show you the sort of dodging that you usually do versus the dodging you do with this. So if you see this amulet, it says +1 meter to dodge roll distance. Usually the distance of your dodge roll is kind of similar to your movement speed. It scales with your movement speed because your dodge roll is exactly as fast as if you had moved, at least as far as I know. With corruption, this goes up to 1.2 meter, but I'm going to tell you straight up, these are pretty expensive. And I would also recommend getting decent dexterity rolls because once again, these give you attack speed with the staff. All the attributes are super, super important. So if you can see right here, with a normal dodge roll, I would go until here, right? And then I put this on, and all of a sudden you'll realize that you're actually faster than walking. And all of a sudden it becomes a lot nicer. Now, if you don't want to dodge roll, I totally get that. For me, it took a little bit of getting used to, and you can go for a different amulet, but I would highly recommend this. At least give it a shot. So this is our baseline right here. So you can see no level requirement, no level requirement, level 5, no level requirement, none, level 8, and then you have no level requirement, no level requirement. Okay, so at level 6, we replace the gloves with Yarn Griper. What this does is strength can satisfy other attribute requirements of melee weapons and melee skills. As you might have noticed, this is not necessary on all classes, but for example, if you're playing a warrior, like I have in this outline right here, you're a monk, so all your skills need dexterity and intelligence. So what do? You kind of want to pick strength. Do you now pick intelligence and dexterity and forego it? Not really. You just go with these gloves. What they do is they give a little bit of flat damage, very good. Life, attack speed, super good. All these rolls matter. And then strength can satisfy other attribute requirements. So you just scale strength and it's all fine and dandy. After that, at around about level 12-ish, probably 14, I think, whenever you get your first spirit drop, right, from the side quest, King of the Mist, that's the one that I'm talking about. So Herald of Ice is the first thing you're going to take. So in this setup, I'll just quickly in the background show you a little bit of footage of how this looks like. But Herald of Ice with a certain unique ring will completely devastate all screens. And Herald of Ice in general just helps you clear so much. Clear matters because you get more XP, so you're not going to be under-leveled, which means you can move while still getting and soaking up all the XP. You don't have to like move around and get extra XP, or maybe, I don't know. Like, it's just super comfy. Now, the ring I'm talking about is Palsteron, which is a sapphire ring that makes it so enemy shield can be shattered as though frozen. Sometimes you don't freeze, but you would chill. So basically, it just makes the explosions super, super consistent, and this is a world of difference. These can be quite expensive, so if you can't get one with an implicit, for example, the skill speed right here, that is understandable, but this one is absolutely premium as soon as you get Herald of Ice. After that, round about level 12 to 16, depends on whatever ring you buy, you will get a new ring. And this ring, if you compare it to your old one, is way, way, way better. So look at this, a ton of flat damage and maybe attributes. Attributes would obviously be insane, a little bit of resistances to make it more comfy, but this upgrade will be incredible. Now, important to note here, and this is important for all your jewelry, is Reaver Catalysts. This adds quality to attack modifiers. So up to 20% more of all the attack modifiers will give you quite a bit, and these cost like absolute nothing. Now, another huge upgrade right after that is Wanderlusts. Once again, you can corrupt this to up to, I think, 24%, yeah. But I only have 22% because once again, I'm poor. But 20% movement speed, usually these upgrades are super, super important, so always do them whenever you can get them. Level 11. There's also other boots, I forgot how they call it, they're like thorn boots or something, that also, I'll probably put them up below here. They also have up to 20% move speed if they are cheaper, so that's also cool. After that, we talked about Greymake. Slowly but surely it falls off, it gets worse and worse per level, so now we're gonna go Thrill Steel. Once again, movement speed is absolute premium. The reason why on your first character it felt so bad to level was mostly movement speed. 20-30 extra movement speed, and it is a world of difference. Also, it gives you 20% skill speed, which is attack and cast speed, and can also be stuff like totem placement speed, but that's basically what we care about, and then 10% increased movement speed. Also, you can get cool corruptions. For example, here I got a second rune. You can also get regen or whatever you want. You can get spirit for whatever reason. And yeah, just put more Eli-Res in there. Now, while you're pathing on the passive tree, no matter where you start, you're gonna get to the outskirts because it's the fastest way of traveling. And there's a ton of jewel sockets in between. How do you fill those? Well, you buy movement speed, right? So there is a plethora of different good things that you can get. Attack speed with quarterstaffs is probably the best one alongside movement speed. If you can afford better ones than these, go for it. I just basically put in 2% movement speed. Maybe you can get a good corruption with attributes. Maybe you just buy a ton and just corrupt them over and over. It's not that hard to get attributes. I think it's you either get attributes or a res if you get a implicit corruption. So that, once again, makes a lot of difference. All these small details really do add up. I cannot stress this enough. 2% move speed, 4% attack speed. Big deal. Personally, that's what I would go for. If you guys have any other recommendations down below, definitely do so. I didn't really know what else to do, but yeah, has been an absolute blessing because in total these really add up and it's like another 10% movement speed. Now, whether you're done at this point completely depends on what build you want. When can you swap into your build? Does your build unlock at level 40? Does it unlock at level 30? That's all fine and dandy, right? You can just respec with your gold, all good. But if you need to go further, let's say your skill is level 52 and you're like, I don't know, my items unlock at level 60 or further because it has high item level requirement, you should really do another upgrade because at some point this will fall off slowly but surely depending on how good the items are that you bought, round about level 40 to level 50-ish. So that's why I would freshen up the gear. First up, your gloves are most likely not going to be necessary. Now, this is because you will have a decent arrangement of attributes on your gear, right? If you bought good gear, then that's what it's going to be. And plus, you're going to have all these all attributes. You're going to pick all of them, actually. I hope I have that in the planner. Yeah, I do. You're going to pick all of these up, and you're going to have the 10% increased attributes. So you should be able to use your skills even if you unequip the gloves. If that's not true, that's unfortunate. Then maybe you have to rearrange some of your nodes. But in general, these kind of gloves are super, super premium. Triple flat damage, and then if you can attack speed, but these are pretty hard to get. Always look for the level requirement when searching on PoE trait. The way you do this is over here when you see requirements, you can put in level. So for example, level 45, and now only items are going to show up that don't require a higher level. More on this trading stuff a little bit later in the video. Now at this point, your ring is kinda meh, right? Like this is a level 16 ring. The flat damage could be way higher. For example, this one right here, which I think I bought for like 5 exalts. It has int, so any attributes is good, right? Because you can always swap attributes around if you want to. And an arrangement of way higher flat damage. You can see 1 to 48 versus right here I have 1 to 8. These are insane upgrades. So if you can get one of these, super, super strong. But once again, only for people who want to take this further. And then stuff like this, which is requirement level 48. These are the ones I would use. I basically made a setup in case I need to level for longer. Dexterity as well. And as always, do not forget your Reaver Catalysts. Oh, another item I almost forgot about is Beetle Bite. Now, this is unlocked at level 52. With Corruption, you can get over 30, up to 35%, but those are very expensive. So probably going to have to settle for like between 30 and 33% movement speed. They don't have anything else. So if at this point you kind of feel squishy, it's totally fine to just go for maybe 25 or whatever. You can do it. it kind of does ramp up over time, of course, because we're wearing like complete leveling gear. So at some point you could just start falling over. You probably still have your level 1. So this is kind of the phase where you can take away some of your power to make it a little bit more comfy. That's just is what it is. In general, after this, I would look to get a good pair of movement speed boots. For example, these one are level 65 and they have increased movement speed. But most likely at this point, you're already transitioning into whatever build you're going to run around about level 60 or so. As for gem setup, you're going to be using Ice Strike. This is how it looks like in the background right here. Now, if you want to go Falling Thunder, you can. If you've already played Monk, you know there's like a little bit of a twist between people, what they like more. I just absolutely love Ice Strike. You're also going to have Tempest Bell for exploding bosses. Basically, it is ridiculously strong. You have Herald of Ice, which explodes packs. And then later on, once you have 60 Spirit, you can actually use Herald of Thunder, which is going to be in Act 3. Talked about the setup right here. So this is all in the planner down below if you want to check it out. But Ice Strike is going to be your main damage dealer. It will give you combo for Tempest Spell. You throw it on Tempest Spell, it's going to absolutely tear everything apart. But usually, once you go through packs, Ice Strike will be perfectly enough. Martial Tempo makes it faster. Rage gives you Rage. Primal Armament, more damage. Pretty straightforward. If you have a 5th link, I'm not 100% sure what to do. It's kind of expensive. And I know you can corrupt into a 5 link, but I would rather go for the quality, which is actually 10% more attack speed, which... I would personally just go for that over anything just because of the feel. Then Tempest Bell, which is our main damage dealer. It is ridiculous, as you guys already know. You want to kind of have a little bit of a spread of damage types. So if you don't know, Bell gives you extra damage on the shockwave per elemental ailment you inflict on it. All the ailments you can inflict on enemies, you can also inflict on Tempest Bell. So yeah, it's ridiculous. If you have like a wide arrangement of different damage types like fire, cold, lightning, it is, yeah, just ridiculous. Overabundance makes it so you can put down a second one. This is just kind of for comfiness. Then I have Heavy Swing, more melee physical damage. Now, there's not that much physical damage actually left, but you do have a little bit from the staff and stuff. And in general, you don't get the downside because you're hitting the bell. It doesn't hit, so no less attack speed. And then also Concentrated Effect because it's basically just there for single target. Then we have Herald of Ice, which I personally did not quality, but I should have. Like quality, if you look right here, gives you up to 0.4 extra meters, which adds to the 1.8 and it gives you even better explosions. So if you have the GCPs to spare, I would highly recommend it. This just explodes packs. Definitely go for Magnified Effect, Cult Mastery, and I'm not really sure what to put here because before you have Herald of Thunder, you can't really combo them. So until then, I kind of put in Long Shot, but that is kind of up to you. Doesn't matter that much. Just gonna be completely honest here. Herald of Thunder, the supports here do matter. Innervate and Ice Bite are both buffs that you can get from it while killing enemies. Now, it kind of depends on your damage setup and your composition, how much lightning and cold damage you have, whether you can actually kill shocked enemies and frozen enemies. For me personally, it has always worked out, but yeah, try them out. They're basically global buffs. They're incredible. And Glaciation gives you extra freeze buildup, which, yeah, I mean, Herald of Thunder can't shock, but it can freeze. So you're just chaining again into Herald of Ice. All right, I'll quickly show you everything. This is Ice Strike. This is how it looks like. You can see right here, if you're a little bit away from the enemy, it actually TPs you, which is so goddamn nice for fluidity. You're kind of just going to be dodge rolling around with the amulet, with the Shrewforded Sigil. And then whenever there's an enemy, you do this, right? And whenever there's a bigger enemy, you can drop down the bell and then hit this. And all of this damage will go to the boss. Let's go for the passive tree at the end. It depends on where you start, what you take, obviously, but there is a few points that I want to highlight here that are good depending on what class you are. So first up, your prerogative early is to get out of here as soon as possible and get to the outskirts. If you look at here, right here, the pathing on the outskirts is way faster than in the middle. For some reason, they made pathing through the middle an absolute nightmare, which is something they'll have to address eventually. Doesn't matter. Another rant video. But yeah, it is incredibly efficient to path on the outskirts. And guess what? Every 5th point or so, you will get a jewel socket as well, which we talked about. But other than attribute nodes, which are obvious, you want to get as much strength as possible. The rest, you can also put into dexterity sometimes. Dexterity is attack speed, so it will make the build feel better. It's probably a little bit less damage, but feel is very important, obviously. In general, pathing through these sections is less efficient than pathing through these half sections. So for example, here or here, but that's something you can like count yourself. I'm not 100% sure that's actually true everywhere, but what you want to look out for are these attribute nodes. So for example, you want to fill all of these out, right? So the strength here, beef, 25 strength. If you're a warrior, that's how you want to path. If you're a ranger, boom, go through and get proficiency ASAP. Super strong. Dexterity, grab all of the dexterity. Now, int is a little bit less important because it's just AoE, but AoE is still clear. I don't know if you actually need it. I have not tried whether you're going to need like an extra 50% AoE, how it's going to feel, but I'm assuming it's going to feel good. Most of your cap around about level 40-50 is going to be single target damage, but whatever floats your boat, right? So int is up here. Those are like the interesting ones. Dex, int, strength. There's also a tri-attribute wheel down here. Now, if you are a sorcerer up here, you probably can't go down here anytime soon, so it depends on when you want to swap to your build. But on any other build, I would highly recommend to head here ASAP. These are premium. 3 all attributes, you're going to be using all of these, and then you get the 10% increased attributes. Super strong. Also, I guess if you're having troubles with equipment and skills, you can also take these points. You usually should not have to, but it depends on how shitty your gear is. The last one here I'll call out is, for example, Falcon Technique, which is quite strong. Attack speed per dexterity. I don't know how much dexterity you're going to have, but these are just nice notes to have, and they're next to proficiency anyways. So you're going to be here. And also, if you're at the quarterstaff wheel, very good, right? This note right here, 25 dexterity, and then you also get a little bit of crit, which is not that important, but still nice to have. And then attack speed with quarterstaves, right? Freeze build up, super nice. In general, just a nice wheel. Another thing I'll call out is Resolute Technique. So RT, obviously you can only take if you're here, but it will alleviate all your attribute needs because otherwise you will have to get a little bit of dexterity, obviously. Dexterity is 5 accuracy per point, so that is quite strong as well. Is there anything else? Oh, people are taking these notes right here. I personally have found that my mana gets kind of screwed if I take them. So personally, I would not recommend taking these notes, even though they do give you attributes. But if you're safe on mana, or you have like a mana regen roll on your ring or your amulet or something, sure, go for it, try it out. Now let's talk about how you can actually find these items. I'll quickly explain it. Important to note is the requirements right here. So whatever you need, for example, let's say you need a low level ring to kind of add, right? Like for example, the ring I had in my showcase, let's quickly go over it. So the ring in my showcase was, the low level ring requires level 16. So let's just take that, for example, let's say level 16. You want to go to Exalted Orbs down here because Divine Orbs are all screwed up right now. So go buyout price only Exalted Orbs unless you're willing to pay Divines, which I don't think is necessary, just FYI. And now we're going to use Count. Now you can also use Weighted Sum. Depends. There's certain situations where Weighted Sum is better. I'm going to use Count because it's a lot easier to explain. And as for Count, all this means is all the modifiers you put under here, if the item has 3 out of these 4, it will pick it up and it will show it in search. So for example, if I put 2, now if the item has 2 of these, it's going to show. So for example, let's just stay realistic and we do 2. You can make another count and you can say, well, if it has at least 1 of these attributes, right? Pretty good. These are prefixes, these are suffixes. So 2 count, 1 count. Let's search. Exalted Orb, 1028. Did I forget to do the requirements? No. Okay, let's go online. As you can see right here, these are quite easy to find. Now, if you want a 3 though, you have to get a little bit luckier. And in this case, there's only 1 on the market right now. But I'm pretty sure if I go offline, there is quite a few because I was actually looking these up. Yeah, there's quite a few, but whatever. You can also go 2 and 1 here. But in general, flat damage should be your highest priority. One thing I want to note is you can put in values here. So if you can, for example, say 3, 3, 3, 3, and then it's only going to filter out certain higher tiers. However, the lower item requirement ones are not really that malleable, right? You're going to get the lowest tier, most likely. So, but let's say we want to get a level 48 ring. Now you can be a little bit more stingy. Let's say you say 10, 10, 10, 10. Now it's only going to filter out the good ones. And this is where you could, for example, use Weighted Sum, but we're going to stick with this. So let's put in 3 and let's not be greedy here. Let's just not say anything for that. Exalted Orbs, and you can see there is a ton of results with 3 of these damage mods, and wow, that is a lot of flat damage, and they start at like 1 Exalt. If you want to be a little bit more greedy, you include one of these attributes. Now, it's still at 1 Exalt actually, but it goes up to like 5. Personally, I would definitely invest into stuff like that, depending on how often you're going to level. Now, if you go 2, that's probably a little bit too much, but you can see even like the random life regen or like the random res can change the setup of the build. Other than that, important to note, when you're looking for corrupted items or you're corrupting items yourself, look out for runes. Now, you might not think these 5 all-res are going to do much, but at some point you're going to fall over. You have to remember you're using level 1 items up to like level 40 or something. So if you're feeling squishy, do replace them if you want to, right? If you want to feel more comfy, that is not an issue. But you have to remember that every bit of LE res is going to go a long way. So if you're buying items, and for example, like me, I didn't look and this had no rune, that is -5 all res. And so sometimes you would rather buy a normal pair with 10% movement speed and you get those 5 LE res. It depends on how much min-max you want to go. You're somebody who wants to race, you want to be as fast as possible, or you want to have it a little bit more comfy. That's something you have to figure out yourself. And I guess something that could come up, especially if you take this to like level 50 or level 60, is maybe mana cost. First up, always upgrade your mana flask whenever you can, and just throw on an Orb of Transmutation and Orb of Augmentation. Nothing really bad can happen here. It's only upside. You can put on Glass Blowers bubbles, but honestly, I think it's just complete overkill. But yeah, Mana Flask is probably your biggest helper there. Maximum mana roll on a ring or something can help out a lot. As well as that, if you are having mana problems early, put 1 or 2 points into Int. 5 Int is 10 mana, and early on you have like 60 or 70. So that is a huge increase. So yeah, if you're fine with the damage loss, take a few Int nodes. That also helps a lot. Also, a single mana regeneration roll on any of your jewelry can make a huge difference. You can get up to like 40, 50. Let me see if I actually have a example right here. This is only life regen, probably my sales tab somewhere. Yeah, so for example, you can see right here, this is obviously a high level one, but you can get like 68% mana regen. You can probably at that level, you can get like 20, 30. That can be a complete game changer. So maybe look out for that in your suffix instead of one of the attribute rolls. But also lower level gems. I mean, this game is ridiculous when it comes to mana cost. I had my Ice Strike pretty low throughout the whole game. Do note that you're leaving damage on the table, but this is something you'll just have to balance out. But yeah, I think I said everything I wanted to say. Hope you guys are having a good time with rerolling. I'm probably going to reroll quite a few more builds. Currently doing a totem build that I'm going to put out a guide on soon. Also have a little bit to say in general over the next few days. If I don't see you anymore, Happy New Year's. Hope you spend the time with your loved ones instead of rerolling another character looking at you. And once again, the planner is down below in the description if you want to have it open while you're leveling yourself. And with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.